I'm Gorilla Monsoon.
I'm Bobby the Brain Heenan.
And I have no idea what the hell we're doing here.
Does he ever?
Huh. Gene, we're recording a promo for a podcast.
What the hell is that?
It's a show where...
A promo, that's where you hype something.
Why don't you be serious?
He asked.
Oh, Heenan, damn it, I know what a promo is. What the hell is a podcast?
It's a show where people, they talk into microphones, usually from their house.
Naked, too.
Stop it.
So, why do they do that?
I'm not sure, really.
Definitely not for the money.
Huh.
Oh.
You better believe it.
So, what's this one called?
Let me see. The Hot Tag Podcast.
Whoopee.
Does anyone listen to this?
Well, I don't know. I'm sure
the government is testing it as an alternative to the chair.
Will you stop that? That's not nice.
Oh.
It's illegal in 11 states.
Quiet. And welcome to the Hot Tag Podcast.
They're not really naked, are they?
I certainly hope not.
What's going on, everybody? Welcome to the Hot Tag Wrestling Show. Thank you very much to the late Gorilla, the late Bobby, and the late Mean Gene for, I guess, pre-recording our intro years and years ago, as if they knew what was coming down the pike here. But I'm Chris E. Francesco. That is George Rogers, and we're here. And we're here to cover Unforgiven from 1998. George, 25 years ago, on April 26th, a couple of days from now, 25. You ever see that meme?
26 years, Chris.
26, I'm sorry. Ever see that meme where, like, to us, sometimes we think, like, the Mega Powers was 25 years ago? Yeah, it's like, no, that was 35 years ago.
Where people are like, oh, 25 years ago, I mean, when the Breakfast Club came out, it's like, no.
No, but it's not true. But yeah, look, we're here. Just, it's so cool, man. Like, I can't even begin to thank everybody enough for the reception that we've been getting over the past week or so. Our top 20 shows have just done incredible numbers on, wherever I've put them, whether it's audio version or on both channels that we're streaming live from right now. By the way, if you are watching us online on YouTube, smash that like button. It helps out big in terms of the algorithm of YouTube. Like, subscribe to the channel, and ring the bell for notifications on when we go live, or if a pre-recorded show gets posted. For the most part, we're going to do this live. I'm a big proponent of doing this live. And I guess so was, Bill O'Reilly too. But so yeah, this is what we're going to be doing, whether anyone likes it or not. I love doing this shit live. So real quick, I know George wanted to talk about Monday Night Raw from last night, which did not do so hot from a ratings perspective in comparison to last week. A 1.81 last week, a 1.59 this week. I know the NBA playoffs are in full swing, but look, maybe George disagrees with me. I know Dean disagreed with me, but I've been saying this for years because, basketball playoffs and NHL playoffs, it's not like a new thing. It's always in this time period. And there were decades where Raw during these times would still produce 3/4 and, mid-4s. And I've always said, if it's something people want to watch, they're going to watch. But right now, maybe it's because fans know the draft is next month or on Friday and then on Monday. But still, that would have been maybe an even more reason for me to watch, to see maybe if there's little cracks on what's going to be showcased possibly for the draft. But it just wasn't that mega of a hit. But you had an issue, George, and I wanted you to, this show is just as much yours as it is mine. And what was your issue for Monday Night Raw?
My main issue is that was the main event, which is what I call it. I mean, obviously, it is Monday. I went on, I did trivia. But I came back home and I was able to catch the main event live, the Battle Royal, to crown the new World Women's Champion, since Rhea Ripley had to vacate the title due to undisclosed injury. I mean, she had her arm in a sling last week, so I guess, I don't know. But as I'm watching the Battle Royal, first things first, I mean, as soon as I saw, if you didn't watch it, I'm about to spoil it for you, but whatever, I don't care. Like, Piper Niven got eliminated and then immediately pulled Becky Lynch out of the ring and started beating the shit out of her. And like Nia Jax came out and they put her through the announce table. And I saw that and I'm like, well, Becky's winning this match. because I've seen this 100 times in a battle royal. So someone gets taken out just only to show up towards the end and end up winning the whole thing. So I was like, well, this is lazy booking at its best, because I've seen this one before. I've seen this bedtime story before, so it's nothing new to me. But as I'm watching it, and I'm realizing like Becky's really the only like main draw that you could put that belt on. And I don't mean any disrespect to any other women. It's not their fault they're in the position that they're in.
Right.
It just seems to me as though the presentation for the women is better on SmackDown than it is Raw.
Yeah.
Which is confusing to me because it's all the same company. So, like, as an example, like on SmackDown, you've got Bayley, your women's champion. You got all the rest of Damage Control. So that's Io Sky, Dakota Kai, Asuka, Kairi Sane. You got Bianca Belair, Jade Cargill, Naomi, Tiffany Stratton. They are all presented as stars. Like, I could believe that any one of them could become women's champion very shortly. And it would make sense. Well, I mean, it would make sense. It would feel right. But as I'm watching the women's battle royal for Monday, I mean, yeah, you got Becky, you got Liv, you got Nia, who were probably like your main names, which of course they were also the final three. But you also had Chelsea Green, Piper Niven, Katana Chance, Caden Carter, Shayna Baszler, Zoe Stark. Like, they're
throwaways.
Exactly. Like, they're basically women's tag teams who were just thrown into this match for a for a vacant title.
For bodies.
Yeah. But it didn't none of them felt like they were going to win. Like, at no point watching that was I like, Shayna Baszler might pull this out. I mean, it'd be a hell of a swerve if she did. I mean, she does deserve a belt at some point.
Right.
Concerning all the work she does, and she's one of the better workers on Monday Night Raw. But, like, as it was going on, I'm like, and it's like, yeah, like, Becky wins. Like, it feels like same old shit.
Yeah.
I haven't told you, and I haven't told to Dean. It's just like this, and like, even Dean's like, what the fuck? Didn't she just lose at Mania? It's like, yeah, like 2 weeks ago. And like they're throwing the belt on her immediately. I mean, I know they had Liv attack Rhea a couple weeks ago to kind of set up the injury angle for her being out.
Yeah.
But from a long-term storytelling perspective, Chris, would it have made a little more sense to put the title on Liv?
Maybe. I mean,
because you can build. I mean, since you're doing this whole like Liv Morgan revenge tour thing, which is nice to see her doing something as opposed to just coming out and having a random match. Like, you could have put the belt on and then had her just roll through the Raw women's division and whoever comes over from SmackDown.
My thought process is on that, maybe they aren't ready to strap that rocket to Liv right off the bat, just like that. Maybe they want to take this now and really start to build her trajectory towards once Rhea returns. Maybe they just didn't want to just throw the belt on Liv Morgan with no substance to it. You can just throw a title in the meantime I don't like to use the word transitional champion because everyone's a transitional champion. Everyone's a champ to build the next one. But in wrestling terms, for those maybe who might be watching or listening who don't understand it from that perspective, to use Becky Lynch as a transitional champion makes sense if you're still not done really building up the character of Liv Morgan moving forward for the ultimate payoff. I feel like it might have hurt Liv Morgan in a way if they just throw the title on her when she's like, wait a minute, we're about to start something really great with Rhea Ripley. Now you just toss the championship on her and we're going to go from there. Whereas now you can use the next couple months. I mean, Rhea Ripley might be back in a month or so. You can use this next 4 to 6 weeks to really build up this sympathy for her, to really build her character to be so strong once Rhea Ripley gets back. Or maybe in a month or two, maybe at Money in the Bank, she beats Becky Lynch for the title, and then you have the comeback at SummerSlam with Rhea versus Liv. You could do something like that. I feel like maybe right now the smart move on although maybe not be popular with, diehard wrestling fans like us, maybe the smart move was for now to throw it on Becky Lynch right before a draft and just let all of this soak in for Liv Morgan to build her up for later down the line. Long-term storytelling, right?
Yeah. I mean, that does seem to be kind of the MO of this new regime. Use that again. Oh no, we got another Helmsley regime, and it's like it's 2000 all over again.
Right.
But also with this aspect, is it me or does it feel like Becky Lynch has gotten a little stale with her character?
It's wild. Like, to you and I and a couple other wrestling friends that I have, we say the same thing. Then it's like, God, her book just came out. It's #1 the New York Times bestsellers list.
Yeah.
She's top 10 in merch. The pop that she got when she won was huge. Maybe we're just in the minority here. Like,
I mean, is this like Cena all over again? Like when we hated Cena because he kept winning title, but the guy was like a #1 merch seller and he was putting butts in the seats.
I know, right? So, like, in your opinion, has Becky reached the Charlotte Flair level?
Like, not to the point where where Charlotte's matches are so formulaic, like you can basically plan it to the move. Like, and Becky's got more substance to her on the mic. It's just, I think I'm just kind of over this character, and I think maybe she needs a shot of life, kind of like shot into maybe like a heel turn, maybe like a stronger kind of, maybe not a full heel, but maybe like an anti-hero, like someone who does things a roundabout way, but still ends up kind of coming out as a win. Because my buddy Eric, his daughter loves Becky Lynch.
Mm-hmm.
So I mean,
so does my
obviously,
daughter, by the way.
Yeah. So like, if she was to turn heel, would they start to hate her? And if they hate her, do they?
I'm just going to be real. Like, she is an incredible heel. She is like a heel. When your moniker is the man, you're a heel. I think her character is built to be a great heel. It really is. And especially, and we can all appreciate this, usually the best workers on the mic are heels.
Yeah.
And she's incredible on the mic. So I think what's best for her is maybe, if you personally are looking, or if those who are bored with Becky are looking for some kind of shot in the arm for her, oh, absolutely, I'm going to say turn her full-fledged heel, because it works. Because you'll have that certain demographic that will boo the crap out of her on live TV, and then you'll get those who will cheer. So yeah, she's almost in that Cena level where half the building will cheer, maybe half the building will boo if she's a heel. But the point is, she's getting a reaction, and that's all they're always looking for, is who are they reacting to? And we watch wrestling all the time. No matter what she does, they react to her. So we'll see. We'll see. Look, I'm a Paul Levesque guy, and I believe in what he's doing. So let's see where this goes the next couple of weeks. Made. I mean, they're available on WWEshop.com.
I still don't like calling him Paul Levesque. I understand that's his name. It's on his birth certificate. But he's always going to be 100% to me.
Mm-hmm. I agree. I'm a blue blood guy.
Yeah, I can tell. You're also a big terrorizing fan.
That's my wife's favorite, like, Triple H thing. She goes, man, I really do miss when he was terrorizing. I'm like, you were like 6.
I just love that picture of him with the feathered hair, but the shirt buttoned all the way up with the tie, because it makes me think of you're a big Office fan, like that young picture of Michael Scott with the old Dunder Mifflin balls. Like it has like the same energy.
Yep, it really did. He had a fanny pack in the photo and a beautiful, great mullet. Oh my gosh, that's so good. All right, so let's give everybody a quick update on the show of what's coming up, and then we're going to get right to the reason we're here, which is Unforgiven from 1998. So
In Your House, Unforgiven.
In Your House. I think this was one of the last In Your House tagged pay-per-views, right? I'm pretty sure it was one of the last ones.
I think the very last In Your House tag pay-per-view was St. Valentine's Day Massacre.
Yeah. So
in February 1999. So yeah, not much longer at this point.
yeah, I agree. So I guess based on what we're saying, Dean's not too happy.
Yeah.
Yeah. All right. So here's what's coming up next week. We added a show because there's still parts of April next week. We're going to be covering Extreme Rules from 2015. Can't believe that's 2015 is already almost 9 years. 9 years ago. Like, are you kidding? I know.
24 now.
Right.
We get you a math book. Just give you
right?
some basic addition.
To kind of, I wanted to do Extreme Rules 2014 because it's the 10-year anniversary. However, that show took place in May, which is why we're covering it next month. So next week, we are going to be doing Extreme Rules from 2015 to kind of give everybody a quick update on what happened on that pay-per-view. There was, Dean Ambrose beat Luke Harper in a 56-minute Chicago street fight. New Day defeated Tyson Kidd and Cesaro, who was oh my God, what a great tag team they were.
What a tag team.
Yep. John Cena defeated Rusev for the U.S. title. Roman Reigns defeated somehow, they gave the Big Show a 20-minute match for a last man standing. And then the main event was Seth Rollins beating Randy Orton. Yeah, beating Randy Orton in a steel cage match for the WWE World Heavyweight Championship. So I think that was the year where the RKO was banned. So, and I think Kane was the gatekeeper. So yeah, that we're gonna be doing that one next week because the 9th anniversary of that show is April 26th. So we're gonna be covering that. And then going into May, like we've talked about already a couple times, we're going to be doing the top 5 best factions of all time. That's going to be a lot of fun. I can't wait. I think Dean's going to be joining us for that one. Extreme Rules 2014, No Mercy 1999, and Backlash 2003. So we have a lot of fun things coming up for you. We're going to start covering more and more pay-per-views from like the 2010s era, because believe it or not, like I said, 2010 was 14 years ago. So it's crazy to think that's already been that long. And some of these pay-per-views are just from so long ago. So we're going to be covering a bunch of that stuff. Once we get into June, once I finalize June, I'll get that out to you guys. But let's talk about Unforgiven 1998, which is why we are here. And I have some notes I wanted to let everybody to kind of like break this down a little bit, just to give a quick breakdown. This occurred inside the Greensboro Coliseum in Greensboro, North Carolina. It set an all-time attendance record of 21,000. Dude, like before I get into some numbers, man, the Attitude Era, this was like literally, and I'm going to go over numbers, like almost peak Attitude. This is where everything really started ramping up. Once, a month prior at WrestleMania 14, the Stone Cold era begun at WrestleMania 14. And, this is the next pay-per-view. It's Steve Austin's first title defense. Dude, the company's so hot. Wrestling's so hot that Vince McMahon and WWF, George, just walk into a Crockett hotbed, a WCW hotbed, and Greensboro Coliseum, and sets an attendance record
right into Flair country and just pissed on his doorstep. Like
it was over 21,000 people. Wild to think like there's a war on Monday night, and the southernmost promotion, which is Ted Turner's WCW. Like that was like a thing where like you just didn't go into like Atlanta, Georgia, or you didn't go to North Carolina. Man, Greensboro Coliseum is Crockett country, Flair country, WCW. Stone Cold Steve Austin and company walk in there and set an attendance record. Man, how hot was the business in 1998?
Hot.
Yeah,
we can talk about the tribalism now between WWE and AEW.
Imagine if Twitter was around back then.
But living through that in the 90s, that tribalism was fucking real.
It was.
Because that divide your friend group, like who
Mhm.
who watched Nitro, who watched Raw.
Mhm.
Like
For
that
those,
shit was legit.
yeah, I agree. So for those who maybe don't understand like the business of the business, let me just kind of run down some numbers. Um, in comparisons, right? The average attendance in 1995 for WWF was 3,227 people. Basically a little bit more than what AEW averages every day now. Um,
Oh,
fast
Park Never
forward
side.
fast forward to 1998, the average live event attendance up to 9,143.
Ooh.
The gate in 1995, the average gate in 1995 for WWF, $50,440. The average gate in 1998, $152,400. Now, if in 1995, the WWF sold out 4.8% of their live events in 1995. Fast forward to 1998, the WWF is selling out 50% of their events. The average pay-per-view viewers in 1995, 3.8 million people. 1998, 5.5 million people. This is a record crowd here on April 26, 1998. $165,000 worth of merchandise were sold. That's a lot of Austin 316s being sold at those tables. And, I read those numbers because that's a 3-year difference. That's not a long time. And we always talk and we look back at how awful 93, 94, and 95 were for the WWF. They were taking out water coolers in, Titan Towers to save money. And they were barely running events in high school gyms in 1995 and 94. And now you get to 1998, George, where no matter what this company touches turns to just dollars and cents by the millions. The biggest number to me was the attendance, and not the money, not all that, the attendance. In 1995, the average attendance was 3,000 people. Then you go up to 98, 9,200. Like, it's insane. It's just the growth is unreal. And we see this on this show, George, like 21,000 people for an Unforgiven pay-per-view. Like, it's crazy how hot the business was at this time. And it's so massive that, and we'll see this on this show, this was one of the first times, maybe even the first pay-per-view, where we see promos throughout the show, because I feel like Vince wanted to emulate what was so hot on television, that why not incorporate some of that into the pay-per-view to further push storylines, right? So that's where we are in 1998. So let's kind of get cracking here. This is the first WWF championship reign of Stone Cold Steve Austin. And that meant that Vince McMahon wasn't happy that he had such a defiant SOB as his heavyweight champ. And like, this wasn't even the Austin McMahon rivalry yet. I mean, we were getting to that point, but this is the very, very early infancy of the McMahon Austin rivalry that would go on to become arguably the most influential rivalry in the history of wrestling.
One of the biggest rivalries.
I mean, it has to be. I mean, people say Rock and Austin. I honestly don't think Rock and Austin even pales in comparison to what Austin McMahon did for the business. I mean, it put them into another stratosphere, just to be clear with people, without the Austin McMahon rivalry, it doesn't even get to the Rock and Austin going into WrestleMania like 15. Like, it doesn't get as hot as it does without Vince being heavily involved in that. So that's just how huge.
I mean, you see as 1998 goes on, it was really, that whole year was basically Vince doing everything he could to pull that belt off of Steve Austin because he wanted a corporate champ. He wanted someone who could represent the company. And he
Right,
wasn't getting
exactly.
that with Austin. So as it went on throughout the rest of the year, by the time Survivor Series 98 comes around, The Rock is that guy.
Yeah. For sure. And like, look, we all know what happened at WrestleMania, what led to it. Shawn Michaels is going to be on the shelf for almost 5 years. So naturally, Vince right off the bat needs that new adversary for Stone Cold Steve Austin. And that leads us to, Dude Love, who Mankind, Mick Foley, Cactus Jack before this. They turned him into a heel. To challenge Stone Cold Steve Austin. This was also around the time where Raw began to beat WCW, Monday Nitro in those ratings battle, which obviously would lead to the demise of WCW a few years later. But not only was this going on, which was Austin and Dude Love and McMahon feud here, the other hottest storyline going into this, which is probably what people remember mostly about this show, is the Undertaker's rivalry with Kane, which led to the first ever Inferno match. Kane, Taker beat Kane at Mania. Kane attacked Undertaker and choke slammed him into weird looking bones of a casket that I guess had the remains of his mother. Like all this happy horse shit that's going
Why
on.
Not? Give me more of it. I don't even care.
Right. So this led to this event where WWF presents the first ever Inferno match with a ring surrounded by fire, because this is something that's really safe for everybody involved.
Hey man, this is 1998 because ECW was in
throw shit at the wall, man, and hope it sticks.
I mean, those motherfuckers would replace the ring ropes with barbed wire.
Yeah,
and people are still doing that now.
Yeah,
and it doesn't look nearly as good.
It's good.
Like I look at it now and I'm like, this is bullshit.
Yeah.
Like I watched somebody get a pile driver like through 2 tables and fluorescent light tubes, only to do a kick out at 2. I'm like, all right, done. I don't even care anymore. That should have put anybody down.
Mm-hmm. So that year, that was WrestleMania 13, Aaron. That was 1997. Was that WrestleMania match, one of the greatest matches of all time.
13 months prior to where we're at here.
Correct. And this was the famous double turn. That was when Brett basically turned heel and Stone Cold Steve Austin became, what he became. So thanks a lot, Aaron, for tuning in. Hope you stick with us here. So this is you had those top 2 matches on the card, and another main attraction, which is it was really hard to even watch. But the other main attraction of this show was probably the 3rd most popular person in the WWF at the time, was Sable. I mean, dude, we'll get to that eventually. Whatever. It got her on the show, but I mean, dear Lord, dude, when she came out there, the pop, it was an Austin pop. Like it really was. And we'll get to that. This is the first ever Unforgiven pay-per-view. It did 309,000 buys, which was pretty solid number in 1998, although there were other pay-per-views that did better. I think what hurts a show like this is, fans spent their money on WrestleMania 14. So you don't really go into paying for Unforgiven or thinking about buying Unforgiven expecting Stone Cold to lose the title. So the predictability is kind of there. So, and like most in your house shows, unless you're a diehard about the certain wrestler that you really love, you're probably not itching to buy this pay-per-view, which I would assume is why they were so low. But let's get into it here. It's a packed house, man. There were 20,000 people in attendance. Jerry the King Lawler and Jim Ross are at the helm calling the action at ringside. And we get right off the bat, man, we get The Rock, Nation Domination, which at this point in time is The Rock, who they were saying The Rock, Rocky Maivia, when he was being announced.
Yeah.
D'Lo Brown and Mark Henry with Kama Mustafa versus Ken Shamrock, Farooq, and Steve Blackman. I do know, and I did some research here, that you didn't really see Ken Shamrock a lot at all in this match, is because he was dealing with an injury. So they were just kind of protecting him at this point, which sucks because in 1998, Ken Shamrock was just a machine. We obviously know who the heels of this were. At this point, The Rock and the Nation kicked Farooq out of the group, so that meant Farooq automatically becomes a babyface. The Rock was the IC champ, who was feuding with Ken Shamrock for the early part of the year, which is a very underrated rivalry, by the way. If anybody wants to look up some fun matches from 1998, please, definitely go look up, Rock versus Shamrock. They had some really good matches. So no, I think this was the very first.
No, don't engage him. Don't
okay.
engage him.
Don't engage. Okay.
He means Unforgiven 2 from Reload.
Oh, son of a bitch. All right. So, we get to the end here. Winners by pinfall: Shamrock, Farooq, and Blackman win at 13-32. The crowd loved the finish. I'll tell you what, I bet The Rock didn't like to finish because Farooq almost slammed that MFer right on his skull at the end. So
that Dominator felt personal.
It really did. You got a Florida State guy slamming a Miami guy, so I'm sure it was personal.
That's deep seated.
It really is. Look, I thought it was pretty decent. Unfortunately, sometimes when I do the research for these shows, I do read what the Observer said, and
great.
For some reason, Meltzer hated it, and I thought to myself, and look, guys, when I go back and watch these shows, I don't like a majority of what I watch because at this time, any fan of WWF back then can admittedly say that the WWF, you watched it for main events. That's what you watched WWF for. If you wanted an undercard to mid-card, WCW was where it was at that time. But I thought this was a really good match. The Rock, it's a decent tag match to me, to give Farooq the win over The Rock, since The Rock was a guy that kicked Farooq out of the Nation Domination. So that was a great finish. I thought it was the right move at that time. It's Unforgiven. It's on a huge pay-per-view, so give Farooq that win. But the crowd was into it, maybe because it was the opening match. But what I liked about the match, which I think Meltzer for some reason doesn't think about, is it told a story. It followed what the storyline was, and it culminated in this match, and it made sense. It completely made sense to me. I thought it worked.
He has a hard time figuring out what his storyline is.
Well, this wasn't outdoors in Tokyo, so he probably gave it 1 star.
This wasn't in front of 400 people at the Cow Palace, so he's not gonna.
Yeah, I know. As we get this is like I said earlier about the promos during the pay-per-view. We get Austin. We get Austin here, so it gives the crowd a chance to get out of their seats. He gets to the ring with the WWF title, just a massive, massive pop. Austin grabbed timekeeper Mark Eaton from ringside and told him to get in the ring. This was the first time we really kind of saw Mark Eaton being involved on WWF television. I mean, we would see him so many more times throughout Austin's run, but this is really the first time that we see him. Austin warns Eaton that bad things happen when you piss him off. Austin let Eaton know that if Vince screws Austin out of the title, then Austin will beat his ass all around the building. Austin says that he's going to beat his ass so badly he'll never work there again. Austin said he didn't mind if Dude Love was good enough to beat him, but if Vince tries to screw him, then Vince and Mark are both going to get their asses whipped because Stone Cold said so. Look, it was just a quick segment to get people more excited about what the main event was at the end of the night. And look, to be fair, at this point, putting Austin on a little bit, a couple more times. It's not going to hurt your business, that's for sure. At that time, I mean, you're
It can
selling
only help.
$165,000 worth of merch. Just throw them on TV. Who
Yeah.
cares?
Throw them on TV with a new T-shirt. That's a guaranteed. It's a guaranteed moneymaker.
Yeah, and just a few months earlier, what Austin is really kind of piggybacking on, George, is the Montreal screw job. At this point, were you like watching this again, obviously, but 1998, you're probably like, oh, well, look at that. That's pretty awesome. He doesn't want to get screwed. But like, I'm looking back at it now, it's like, probably could have moved on from talking about the Montreal screw job. It's completely different. This is almost, completely different company from what it was just that previous, November. Let's just move on with our own storyline here and not constantly bringing up, is Vince going to screw me? Do you feel that way, or do you felt like, we're still early enough to where you can bring it up?
It was probably still early enough. They really weren't mentioning the other party by name.
Mm-hmm.
They weren't really giving him any TV time on their company. But it was a very real feeling for Austin, because
Right.
Vince could do that,
Mm-hmm.
because
Sure.
he's seen Vince do it before. So there's no reason for someone like Austin to think that Vince wouldn't do it again.
Right.
I mean, he is going to do it again in November. So
so next match here, which I had a lot of fun watching. I didn't think I would. Triple H with China versus Owen Hart for the European Championship. Coming into this match, Triple H was the heel, but the crowd loved him because he's part of D-Generation X. Owen Hart was a babyface during his Black Heart run. But shortly after this, yeah,
the sole surviving Hart they mentioned. So
this match ended in 12 minutes and 30 seconds, 12 and a half minutes or so. Triple H got the win by pinfall. Man, it's a wild match, man. A lot happened. And China had something in her pocket that she dropped. Then she, defied the laws of physics and bent the bars and opened up the cage. Oh, yeah, by the way, there's a fucking cage in this match. It's
a shark cage.
A shark cage. It's got
last time we saw that, Paul Bearer was in it, hanging from the.
Surprise! That's a strong cage. To have Paul Bearer there, but at one point we have China literally hanging off that thing like a monkey upside down. Like, oh my god, this is gonna be this girl's gonna fall. It's gonna be ugly here on pay-per-view. It got
I mean,
well, there's a lot of foreshadowing, I guess, if that would have happened.
Long-term storytelling.
God. Look, I thought that was a good match, man. And the second half of this match, Owen puts over Hunter a lot to further, I felt, establish Triple H as a really good worker. Once China got out of the cage, the fans kind of started to care, and I thought they built this very well towards the finish of the match. It was fast paced. I wish it was a little bit more fast paced, like more of a normal Owen Hart type match. But look, it did what it was supposed to do. I'm not going to nitpick anything like that. But look, you got to see X-Pac in there.
Goody.
Yeah, I know, right? But I thought it was job well done. Following the match, Owen Hart was interviewed where he yelled, "Enough is enough. I've had it up to here. This bullshit has got to stop. Enough is enough." They didn't bleep out the swear word, by the way, on Peacock. Nope. So I listened to it. I watched it again last night. And they didn't bleep out the bullshit reference. So
I mean, for me, like I enjoyed everything in the ring, but I feel like a lot of the attention to the match was to China in the shark cage.
Yeah.
It was like every time there was a lull in commentary, they would be like, "Oh, well, China's up there in the shark cage." It's like I'm aware. Can you just
we know
tell me what's going on in front of me?
Yeah,
that's probably why it wasn't as fast paced as most Owen Hart matches, because most of the focus was on China in the cage and what she was going to do.
Yeah. So look, I think WWE at this point realized, these guys are in the wrong role, because like the next night on Raw, Owen turns heel, joins the Nation of Domination. Meanwhile, DX and Triple H turn babyface like really soon after this. So I was just like, I don't know where are you going with this?
Why was Owen in the Nation of Domination?
I know, why is Owen? Enough was enough. It's time for a change. I'm gonna go to I'm gonna go to the Nation.
I'm no longer hanging out with bland Canadians.
Yeah,
I'm hanging out with these cool black guys.
Yeah,
one of them's a pimp.
Correct.
That's who I'm hanging out with.
That's who I'm hanging out with. Just wild. And then the worst part, but then the funniest part of the entire show. Like, this is Jim Cornette makes his entrance to a bunch of boos from the crowd. Cornette called them the ugliest bunch of people he's ever seen in his life. Cornette said that they are going to spoil the Rock and Roll Express's homecoming tonight. Cornette introduced Bombastic Bob Holly, spark plug, and Bodacious Bart. Now, this is before he got his ass whooped in the Brawl for All a year later as a new Midnight Express. They are the NWA Tag Team Champions in 1998 WWF. The Rock and Roll Express entered the ring to the Rockers theme song.
Yeah, I had to replay it because I'm like, is this what I'm hearing right now?
Oh, I wanted to text you, but I wanted to wait till the show to be like, did you notice the Rockers theme song for the Rock and Roll Express?
I don't think that's them.
I don't think so. See, what happened was something went wrong there. So we get this match, which ended in 7 minutes and 12 seconds, probably 7 minutes and 9 seconds too long. I thought it was bad, and I've watched some incredible Ricky Morton and Robert Gibson matches from back in the day, but this just wasn't it. And
they were on the decline.
They really were. It was sad. It was almost as sad that, as sad as watching the LOD, which sadly we'll have to watch in another match or so. But man, it was hard to really kind of watch this. I mean, I think it was kept short because I think WWF realized very quickly during this match that no one gave a shit. No one cared. Yeah. Like, it got to a point where Cornette had to be involved so heavily in the match. I don't think that it definitely was not playing. When you have a Ricky Morton in the ring who can sell like it's no one's business with anyone, and now you got to get Cornette to be involved and sell a little bit. Yeah, something went wrong there.
I get why they did it because of the area they were in, and it was kind of a big homecoming. But it was probably at a point like this during this match that Vince realized, hey, people probably aren't watching the other companies.
Yeah. So this was a miss. And I've heard Bruce Pritchard say many times that, this whole NWA thing was just a big favor to Jim Cornette, but just the whole thing from start to finish was a bad idea all around. It was really bad. This was hard to watch. This was tough. But yeah.
I like the tag team of Bob Holly and Bart Gunn. I thought they could go, but
yeah, they can definitely go.
They just didn't have good opponents.
Oh yeah, that too. So we get to a backstage interview with Luna Vachon and Goldust. Man, Luna was so far ahead of her time. She really was. Luna said that she was going to strip. She was going to strip down Sable, and to her, her what was this, a evening gown match, right? The first ever evening gown match.
First ever evening gown match.
Yeah. Luna made her entrance with Goldust, whose name was just the Artist at this point,
because he was the artist formerly known as Goldust.
Sable entered to a mega pop. JR said that was a heck of an ovation, and you would have thought Ric Flair walked out. So at this point, Rick was in WCW, but he wrestled in that building a couple times.
At least once or twice.
At least once or twice. This is the match where I just was like, man, I finally just came to the realization of it. Jerry the King Lawler is unbearable, to listen to in this era when you go back now. It was brutal to listen to. It really was. I'm trying to find out what was I was watching it and I thought I sent this to you. So during the match, when they're fighting and they were Luna Vachon was about to, I guess, take the top part of the evening gown off of Sable. The thing that did make me laugh that Jerry did say, he goes, I want to see the dairy farms. And I was just like, oh, that made me chuckle. But then like everything else after that, it's like he's constantly like yelling over Jim Ross. He's just saying the dumbest shit ever. And I'm thinking to myself, dude, like this is bad enough to watch the match, or if you want to call it that. Listening to him is really, look, in 1998, say all that stuff you want, man. I'm sure I ate it up as a teenager, right? So of course, great then. Man, I listen to it now and it's like, dear God, like it's annoying. It's like listening to 2019, Michael Cole, like just nonstop vomiting of words.
I mean, knowing what we know of Vince, this was totally his idea.
Oh, this has Vince.
He's like, hey,
McMahon.
Jerry, this is everything I want you to say.
Right.
This is all stuff I'm saying behind doors anyway that no one else can. But now we're going to put it on the forefront. But it's coming out of your mouth and not mine. So you're the one that looks like the pervert.
Oh, yeah. And like, look, in 1998, this worked big time because, look, the match did not mean a damn thing. No. Take away all of that. Take away everything and just listen to the crowd. That's all you got to do. Listen to the crowd. And that'll tell you everything you need to know about this contest. What's going on, Tyson? Thanks for tuning in. So, man, that's all the crowd wanted. The crowd wanted them some Sable, and they got 95% of her.
Man, Luna became the biggest face in the company by ripping off Sable's dress.
Yes, she did. Oh, that was so funny. So, what was your thoughts on this whole thing? Obviously it had its place, different time, different place in the industry, in the country back then, 1998. But look, this shit would never fly today. So, yeah, was this something for you even at, our age now where it's like, I'm just going to fast forward through this?
At 13, yeah, I was into
At 13, I might have bought the pay-per-view for this.
At 39, I've already seen Sable and Playboy.
Mm-hmm.
You're not showing me anything that I haven't seen already.
Exactly.
It's even worse because when you realize how far women's wrestling has gone,
oh yeah,
and then you go back and you look at this and you're like, this was the start of just the dullest, most degrading era for women's wrestling, which is a shame because we're not that far removed from Alundra Blaze and Bull Nakano. And as soon as we got Sable, it was like Vince was like, now how can I get her to take her clothes off in the ring?
Oh, for sure. I mean, but you have to look at it this way. I mean, that was a big part of getting to that next level. I mean, you want to push the envelope in 1998, 1999. By the way, yes, Tyson, I hope I look good enough for you for this.
You look like MJF.
Perfect. I won't be as boring. In 1998, 1999, dude, like if you want to push the envelope, you push it with sex. Sex, drugs, rock and roll, 1998, 1999. This is what you got to do. And, the women, unfortunately, I mean, you can't walk around showing hog all over the place. So the next thing you can do is show scantily clad women, right? I mean, that was the time. That was where we were of society, where women were objects and they were objectified and they were exposed in this era. And it sucks because, a year or two later, you have Trish Stratus, Lita, also were objectified. I mean, Lita wore basically a hung out thong during her, her matches, and the same, Trish was barking like a dog on national television. So
I mean, Trish in lingerie every other week.
Tori Wilson, Stacy Keibler, all of them, man. And some of them in the middle there were incredible workers that were, like I said, periodically you'll hear me say like Luna Vachon, or let me just say like a Victoria, Molly Holly. Yeah. They were all ahead of their time. If they were around 10 years later, legitimately, we're talking about them being the standard barriers and not the Charlottes, not the Beckys, the Baileys. We're talking about the Victorias. We're talking about the Molly Hollies. They could flat out work.
Even
Jacqueline too. I mean, Trish got to that point as well. Always was a great worker. But then they had her do all that other crap. But again, you're right. 13-year-old me looks back at this and goes, okay, cool. Give me more of this every single week.
This is also Vince looking at what the other company was doing and saying,
all right,
now how can I how can I go further? So Nitro had the Nitro girls who would come out and they would dance. He's like, well, I'm gonna get this blonde with the massive jugs to take her clothes off in the middle of the ring.
Exactly. Yeah. Let me really get to that, that 13 to 25 demographic to turn that television dial. Right. So speaking of the devil, probably literally, let's hear from Vince McMahon.
Let's hear from Vince.
Yeah. Another promo here. The second one of the night. He comes down to the ring with his stooges, Gerald Briscoe and Pat Patterson by his side. Vince said that something catastrophic is going to happen here tonight, saying that could mean anything because anything can happen in the WWF. Vince said there's a conspiracy theory that exists that claims that Vince is there to screw Stone Cold out of the WWF Championship. Vince said that not that many years ago, his mother had the pleasure of giving birth to him in North Carolina, so it was good to be back home. And of course, the fans appropriately boo. They were Austin chants trying to shut him up. They were loud, man. Vince said he will not dignify the conspiracy claims with a response, saying he will not be held responsible for what happens in the ring tonight, and that he won't be responsible if Stone Cold screws Stone Cold. And then that was it.
Conspiracy, Chris.
Yep.
He's right. There was something catastrophic happening during this pay-per-view. Unfortunately, it wasn't a match.
Yeah. We get next match here. WWF Tag Team Championships. New Age Outlaws, Road Dogg and Billy Gunn versus LOD 1998. With
2000
Sonny.
meant the future.
Yeah. LOD, the future. New Age Outlaws were the heel champions while Legion of Doom were faces. This match ended in 12 minutes and 13 seconds. Winners by pinfall with the New Age Outlaws. Basically, the ref counted Animals' shoulders down after a German suplex on Road Dogg Jesse James. The crowd, obviously, and even myself, when I watched this back, I was like, oh, cool. There's a title change. The crowd went bonkers for it. But, man, I'll tell you, anything with Animal was fine. He could work still at this point to a degree. Dude, it was hard watching Hawk in anything. Just not fun to watch. The demise of that dude. What was your thoughts? Did you notice maybe what I noticed with LOD? But it was time. It was way past their time.
The LOD, as much as I love LOD.
Yeah, me too.
They were never a good fit in the WWF.
Never.
They were never a good fit.
Is it because they had to actually work?
I think it's because of a change of style. They could be in NWA, like Jim Crockett, and just beat the holy shit out of people.
Yeah.
And it didn't matter. But now up here, you gotta change the style a little bit. You gotta work, you gotta throw moves in, you gotta do chain wrestling, you gotta tell the story. As opposed to just, all right, go beat the fuck out of these guys. But that's what we love about the Road Warriors, was the fact they would come out and just leave people laying in their wake. That's what we loved about them.
Agreed.
They just didn't mesh well with the culture in WWF. And that's not their fault. In WWF, they want people to work a certain way, and they just couldn't. They did the best they could.
Yep.
Like I said, they didn't. Their stuff obviously a little early on in the 90s was much better than where it is now. Just age and the alcoholism catching up with Hawk and just his inability to really work. But this match, when I watched it, I was watching it and I'm like, this is not a good tag match.
No.
I love the LOD. I love New Age Outlaws. New Age Outlaws is one of my favorite tag teams of all time, as you saw in our or 30-day wrestling challenge.
Mhm.
I put them up as a favorite tag team.
Mhm.
But they didn't work well together.
No,
Something fell off. And even the end where they did the German suplex into the pin, hard camera saw a shoulder up.
Don't worry. I think even the announcers were confused because they were saying the same thing.
This was like Starrcade 97 all over again. It was like Vince Solite. He's like, how can I do that now?
I will say, though, post-match, Jack Doan took a hell of a doomsday device.
Yeah.
That was probably the best bump of the entire pay-per-view, by the way.
Jack Doan died that night.
Yeah. Oh, man, that was funny. Look, obviously that end wasn't great. They made the fans happy with that doomsday device on the ref. Then we get to some real stupid shit with Jeff Jarrett doing a concert with Sawyer Brown, where it was very clear that nothing that Jeff Jarrett said in the microphone was his voice.
No, it was Sawyer Brown's voice.
I know, so bad.
Or whoever the fuck the lead singer is. I'm assuming his name is not Sawyer Brown.
Right.
I also don't care enough.
I know, yeah.
However, the song that they played was 6 years old. That song came out in 1992. I know because my parents listened to country at that point.
That was a hard sell. In 1998, I'm not sure that was with the way that crowd is, man, with that WWF crowd 98. I'm not sure putting Jeff Jarrett in this situation was the smartest creative for the evening.
Well, you're in Greensboro, so
well
those heathens are going to eat up a little country music.
Heathens. All right, so we get to probably the most notable part of the entire pay-per-view, and the area in the ringside is set up for the Inferno match. You get a great video package in terms of 1998 standards that aired to set up the Inferno match between Taker and Kane. Taker beat Kane at WrestleMania 14, then Kane beat up Undertaker after the match, so the rivalry continues. Kane burned the grave of the Undertaker's parents, so that pissed him off. So the Undertaker's coming for the revenge of his dead parents. Kane makes his entrance. I love original Kane, man. I mean,
it's
really
a little
do.
Weird that Taker's getting revenge on Kane for like desecrating their graves because didn't Undertaker kill his parents?
That's correct. Don't tell this to Vince Russo, pal.
I'll fucking tell him right to his goddamn face, bro.
So we're here, Undertaker versus Kane, the Inferno match. There was obviously no referee in the ring. I love how at one point, like a single punch elevated the fire so high, and then later on you could see the guy in the corner. They put the camera on the dude on the side of the ring who was controlling all of the fire. I was like, damn it, let me suspend my disbelief with this. I don't want to see that guy. I know that he's just watching and elevating it when there's a big move, because naturally, how's the fire going to elevate if there's any kind of move? It's just there.
It's like you've never even been at a campfire, Chris.
That's true. I've never been to a campfire where it just magically shoots up when I raise my hand in the air. When you
drop things on the ground, you don't remember the fire just jumping up?
No, I used to throw rocks all the time under the ground with fire. They just stayed the same. Maybe I just had a real, not a good working fire back then.
Maybe you weren't doing it right.
Maybe I should just be around more shoot fires. Maybe that's what happens.
Probably.
So, this match is about 16 seconds, about 16 minutes. Undertaker gets the win. It's like so much like you kind of want to talk about in this match. One, it was so boring for the first 5 or 6 minutes because it was just punches and kicks back and forth. Then we kind of got a little bit into the wrestling. We see a weird appearance by Vader. Then you see the badass jump over the ropes by Taker onto both of them dudes.
What a fucking spot, man.
Oh, what a great spot. What's it? The tope, right?
Tope suicida, I guess. I don't fucking know. It's probably not called that when Taker does it.
I'll tell you what, man. Like watching this match back again, I watched it late last night again. Dude, it must have been so hot. And the amount of times, and Kane's in a mask. So it must have been unbearable at some point. So at some point, I'm sure Kane's like, just fuck it, just set me on fire. I got to get out of here. But
not only is Kane in a mask, but he's in basically
spandex like leather.
A full suit except for like one arm.
Yeah.
And Taker's is all in black.
Yeah, like it, yep. Just like
He's a
heavy,
large man,
heavy
300
stuff.
pounds, surrounded by fire.
Oh my gosh, it was so great. Like obviously we get to a point in the back, a point in the match where Taker beats up Paul Bear onto the stage, which gives Kane time to go under the ring and have Hornswoggle pop the fire gimmick on his arm to make sure that we can set a guy on fire. Dude, if it was not obvious when the camera got back to Kane and he's wearing this big ass white sleeve on his red arm, I'm like, this match better end in 5 seconds because you're gonna kill the entire match if he's not set on fire, because you can clearly see there's a bag on the dude's hand on the dude's arm. But it was such a unique match. Like a star rating or anything like that, like really doesn't matter anything here, because I was super impressed in 1998 and the intrigue of fire around a match or around a ring. I'm still pretty impressed by it now that they pulled it off so well. Obviously it can't be compared to any other match ever. The danger factor still impresses me all those years later. It still looks awesome. Like it looks so incredible. Just watching it on TV again. It shows how talented Taker and Kane were to make this work and make it look so easy. I just thought the ending was fine, except seeing the entire thing taking up Kane's arm, knowing, okay, well, he's about to get set on fire. But other than that, man, I had fun with it. 26 years later, I enjoyed watching it. How about you?
This wasn't bad, but I prefer their second Inferno match, the one that happened on Monday Night Raw in March of 1999, or no, February of 9. It was
February.
It was like 2 weeks after the St. Valentine's Day Massacre.
Yes. Yeah.
When you had Vince on commentary, you had the Corporation and Ministry of Darkness like full on going at each other. Paul Bear comes down to the ring with the teddy bear in the the box. Taker sets on fire and throws on the ramp while Vince is crying like a bitch because he knows what it means, but nobody else does. And then Kane's boot was the one that got set on fire. So you didn't have to do much. You basically just wear a flame retardant boot and you're good.
That's right.
Or you just put like your gimmick oil on the boot and it's fine. It doesn't matter.
Right. My favorite part of this whole thing, maybe my favorite moment of the night, was Undertaker getting back in the ring with the fire and does a Shakespearean pose on his knees, like the Undertaker pose in the middle of the ring with the fire going. Oh, that's such a badass pose. I would love to get that like in a poster and have that signed by Taker. Like that. What a cool visual that was. So here we go. The main event video package airs showing Steve Austin's WWF title win at WrestleMania 14, which obviously led to a classic segment on Raw with Austin dressing all corporate, and then let Vince McMahon know he won't change for anybody. Gives him a nice little old tipper, which if you're all our ages, you've got those on a daily basis growing up in middle school and high school.
I feel like there's still a risk of those when
you're always. Oh God, no! I think he'll just he's just gonna one day just full on grope us.
Instead of a backhand, it's a full on cup hand grabbing,
right,
and then giving you full eye contact while he's doing.
He's gonna give full eye contact and give like a deep breath. There was also the Austin versus McMahon match that was on Raw with Austin's hand tied around his back at MSG, which was, I think, the first night in 83 weeks, right? That they beat WCW in the ratings.
Yeah, because they advertised at the beginning of their show it was going to be Austin versus McMahon, and everyone changed the channel over. That's
right. So, Dude Love gets involved to try to bring peace and love. Thanks, Ringo. So then Dude attacked Austin. It was all a swerve, bro, to trick Austin because Dude was working with Vince. They also teased the idea that McMahon was sitting at ringside, so he might screw Stone Cold Steve Austin like he's screwed over Bret the Hitman Hart back in Survivor Series in November.
Because Mick Foley was Cactus Jack like 2 weeks prior to.
Yeah, it's every week. It's like you don't know. Like I would be watching a Raw from '98. I'm like, well, which face of Foley, or am I just going to get Foley this week? So the match was Steve Austin for the WWF Championship versus Dude Love. But man, I really felt like the goal here was just to push the rivalry of Austin and Vince. The big tease was that we had to watch to see if Vince was going to screw Austin, not if Dude Love can actually win the WWF title. So I thought that this was like it was just to get a match in the ring. The goal was to further the storyline of Austin versus Vince. Do you agree with that at all?
Anybody could have been in Dude Love's spot.
I agree with you. Totally agree.
The story was awesome. I mean, and as it is for all of 1998 and 99 and so on, the story is Austin and McMahon. That's was the moneymaker. That's what people wanted.
Yeah, I agree.
They even made reference said the last time Vince McMahon was at ringside during a title match was Survivor Series.
Yep.
So.
Dude Love makes his entrance. There were some boos for Dude, but it wasn't like he was getting major heel. Yeah, I love Dude Love. I was great.
Love that music, man.
Me too.
So good.
Still pop it in my car once in a while. The entrance of Stone Cold Steve Austin, dude, like shook the cameras. Like it shook the lot.
Love
like
it was to say it,
dude. What a mega pop! And he hits those 4 turnbuckles. God, I love that so much. Like I'll never get tired of seeing that. This match went about 19 minutes almost. Obviously, Dude Love got the win by disqualification, so Austin retains the title. This was
a weird kind of disqualification too.
It was very weird. He was disqualified for hitting a WWF official. This was like the 8th time of the night that a referee took a bump, and now you're gonna end. And you and I have talked about this all the time. The last thing I want to see at my main event of a pay-per-view is a disqualification. Like it's a cop-out.
But the weird thing was Dude Love was the one who closed on the referee.
Exactly. I know.
But Austin got disqualified because he 100% intentionally clocked Vince with that chair.
Yeah, I mean, Austin hits a clothesline on Mike Chioda. Good, he probably deserved it for real. So that's what the disqualification was. They showed replays of Austin's chair shot to the head of McMahon with the announcers wondering if it was on purpose from Austin or if it was an accident.
Alert, it was.
Lawler thought it was on purpose while Ross thought it might have been an accident. Of course, Ross thought that.
Of course he did.
Right.
I mean, that's another gripe you have is how hard JR was blowing Steve Austin.
Oh my God. It was, dude, like we get it. You're his
the rattlesnake will never let you down until he turns heel in 2001.
Yeah.
And then he shook hands with the devil.
You damn right. But it was everything. If Austin took a deep breath, like, haha, look at him take a deep breath. That's a man. That's a deep breath of a man.
That's a man's lungs, pal.
Look, I thought it was a great match. Let's just kind of talk about the match real quick. I thought it was amazing. It was fast paced. I wanted more Dude Love versus Austin. Like the only rest hold in the match was because they needed a moment for McMahon to walk down to the ring. So, I think
this is pre-power strut. So I mean, it took him a minute.
It was going to take him some time there. I think they should just made it a street fight match because there were moments where, there probably should have been multiple countouts early in the match. And I understand not wanting to end the match by countout, but rules are part of pro wrestling. So,
it's funny because when I was watching the match and the referee is counting Austin out and McMahon's telling him to stop counting, but he keeps doing it. And then I think back to WrestleMania this year when the referee was going to count out Cody and the Rock goes, if you count, you're fucking fired. So it shows you who a real boss was, who the real boss is, the final boss.
Right. Oh man. So, look, the drama of this match was spectacular. It was through the roof. With Vince out there teasing, he's going to call the bell early. Austin having, overcome that and deal with Dude Love at the same time. The biggest part of the match was when Austin hit Vince in the head with his steel chair. It was something that we had never seen before. And it showed at this time that Vince was willing to do anything that, he would put his own wrestlers through. And let me just also remind everybody, and I've said this before on past shows, but if you're new here, I'm going to say please watch Stone Cold Steve Austin prior to SummerSlam 97. This was the first time since that neck injury that Austin like worked the match like he was the one that had to sell the whole thing. Austin sold like a champ in this match. I love watching when Stone Cold Steve Austin wants to wrestle, and it is a sight to see. And I thought in this match, during parts of the match with the fast-paced movement that he had, dude, he was prime Steve Austin. I felt in this match. Did you kind of notice the same thing? And what were your thoughts on Austin's performance?
My thought, I mean, like Austin and Foley, they work so well together, and it happens so few times.
I know. Yeah.
Like you feel because they were both. I mean, at one point they're both baby faces. You're not going to put them together. You're not going to put them against each other.
Yeah.
I mean, and Foley is less than 2 years away from retiring, so there was really not much left they were going to do.
Yeah.
But they work so well together. It was
great.
Like going back and watching this, it's like, this is a great match.
Yeah. The chemistry was so perfect, man. It really was. It was obvious. And then they end the show. Vince was placed on a board on the mat while Patterson, Briscoe, and Slaughter were at ringside checking on Vince. Dude Love was also there to support him, who didn't open Vince doesn't open his eyes at all. He's dead. he's dead.
He sold that like Seth sold that Superman punch.
Oh my God.
Just laid dead in the fucking ring.
Or the night in Survivor Series when Dolph Ziggler, right before Sting made his return, I thought Dolph Ziggler, who I think was like clotheslined, and he laid in the ring dead for about 20 minutes. And I was like, wow.
Dude was just napping.
This was the year I was born, so I watched this as a kid. All right. Well, make it make sense. Yeah,
that makes us feel really young now.
I know. So the show goes off the air at this point. JR obviously thanking us for watching and tuning in. You're welcome, JR. You're welcome.
Yeah, thank you, JR.
You yes, that's right. They went for the controversial ending because it built anticipation for Raw the next night to see what they're going to do next with that disqualification. But, plus, you got Dude Love beating Austin, which meant it made sense to do a rematch. And that's what happened at Over the Edge in 98. By the way, phenomenal match. We're going to cover that one day too, because I'm looking forward to that. Damn, like the build was great from then on. Like, you're off to the races at this point. From this point forward with the whole entire summer going into the fall with Austin, dude. We get to the end of the show here. Out of a 10, like, what do you rate it? What was your thoughts on the show?
Out of a 10, I'm gonna go 7.
Okay.
Because the matches that were good were really good, but the ones that were bad were extremely forgettable.
I agree.
Plus the fucking concert in the middle of the pay-per-view.
Yeah.
That lip sync concert. I was like, well, this is awful.
Yeah. So,
at least WCW got Kiss. I mean,
right. And like, ICP.
Stop talking now.
I'm just joking. Oh man. So I was at a 6 when I was going into this, and I was like, you know what? I'm going to probably bump this up to a 7 because the final 2 matches were unreal. Like, they were great. It was a show that was built around 2 big matches, and I felt both delivered. And obviously the rest of the card, I feel like was just really bad overall.
The middle of the pay-per-view really brings it down.
It really does, man.
Because the 6-man tag wasn't great, but it was fun.
Right.
Triple H and Owen,
a lot of
always great, but the NWA
a lot of tag match, man. A lot of gaga in that match.
Ugh,
Lord. Yeah, I agree. If Owen and Triple H were just a standard one-on-one match, I would have loved it. No issue. Like, if it was just one-on-one Owen versus Triple H, great. That would have been a phenomenal wrestling match. I would have been okay with that. that Austin Do Love main event, the match itself was great. I didn't like the finish. I understand what it led to, which was great because we got the rematch at Over the Edge a month later, which is awesome. But I don't like a disqualification as a finish.
This pay-per-view kind of jump-started a lot of what we're going to see over the summer
For sure.
because we got the rematch at Over the Edge, and then like the next night on Raw, Mick Foley's in the ring, and then Vince is like, your services are no longer required. Mick shows up back at the end of the night, still in the shirt and the tie, but with the Mankind mask that leads to him and Taker at King of the Ring, and then Kane and Austin at King of the Ring. It's 98 was a good time for those main event feuds, for those title feuds.
Absolutely. I felt like, in a lot of ways, this show was the perfect example of what the Attitude Era was all about. And, you had the memorable ending to a great main event, proving that anything can happen here in the WWF. Austin smashing the owner of the company, Vince McMahon, in the chair, in the head with a steel chair. Then you have like Sable and Luna basically in a lesbian fight off, providing that sex appeal that the audience just loved. I mean, again,
lesbians don't tear the clothes off each other, Chris.
Well, depends. If one's Luna Vachon and the other one's Sable, something's going on. Something's going to happen.
Then maybe.
There.
And if Vince McMahon's your boss, then definitely.
And Vince is the one writing it. Absolutely.
The precursor for hot lesbian action.
It was. And I mean, again, for those who don't like that evening gown match, we didn't, just put your minds back in 1998 and then go watch Sable's entrance. And then when she wins or when she takes care of business at the end with the power bombs, go watch the crowd reaction. It was loved then massively. And then you have the Inferno match, dude. First time ever, like watching that. And I go back like, God, that was so much fun watching that match. Overall, it was a fun show. It was fitting for the time period that it took place in. And I have to sometimes take myself at 37 now and put myself back in 1998 and analyze the pay-per-view from that aspect. Like, what was going on during those times? Just like if you watch like any kind of like, Survivor Series from 1988, other than the main event, it was an unwatchable. They were always unwatchable. They're hard to get through. It was really hard to watch like a Don Morocco match or something like that, or Brutus the fucking Barber Beefcake doing anything good. Like, it was just hard to watch back then. And that's why you fast forward, 10 years, 98. It's hard to watch LOD going up against New Age Outlaws and watching that Styles clash and watching the demise of one of the best, tag teams ever. It's hard to watch Jeff Jarrett perform a stupid frigging concert lip syncing for 15 minutes and, Luna and Sable. But I have to look at it as what was going on in 1998 of that time of wrestling. And clearly everything worked. It all worked for them. And
you had three major companies basically vying for that top spot in 1998. I mean, it was, obviously WWF came out on top, but they had to basically compete with the star appeal that WCW had, concerning how they still had Hogan and Mach and everything, and then the NWO was still hot. And they had to compete with the edginess of ECW. So it's like, well, how do we do any of this?
I agree, man. So yeah, I give this show a 7 overall. Just really cool, man. The main event and then that Inferno match was awesome. So that wraps up Unforgiven 1998. George, before we get out of here, any final words, anything you want to talk about before we get out?
Nah, I don't think there's anything really worth mentioning.
Yeah, I agree. Well, I mean, we do have the draft coming up on Friday and then Monday. What do you have any real quick, what is your expectation on the draft? You think anything big you think it's going to happen?
I don't, I have no expectations.
Mm-hmm.
And that's probably the best way to go into it.
I agree. I think that's the
Could
best
get
way
some
I
NXT,
can do it.
and NXT's involved too. So NXT, we could see some NXT call-ups. We could see some people go down to NXT, not really so much the promotion, but maybe just helping some of the younger people. I think Natalya should go down to NXT and fucking stay there. But that's my own. She was in that Battle Royal and she didn't even look like a main eventer.
Yeah,
and she's
I
Natalya.
told you she's the new Big Show. She's just being thrown there to be a big body of who's gonna move this woman? Well, I mean, everyone who faces her will move her.
No, not Nia, Natalya.
She's just gotta go become a coach, in NXT.
Yeah, I mean, it's him because she had the longest tenure and she's so good in the ring, but it's just like nobody cares anymore.
Yeah, no. Only her surgeon.
And her sister.
Oh, yes. All right. So this has been the Hot Tag Wrestling Show. Thank you guys so much. If you're watching on YouTube, again, like this video, subscribe to the channel, and ring the bell for notifications on when we're going to be live here again, which will be next week when we cover Extreme Rules 2015. Looking forward to watching that show. I'll be watch that tomorrow, maybe. We'll see. All right. So I hope everybody enjoys this show. Hope everybody watches SmackDown on Friday and Raw on Monday night. The draft is always fun. Don't know what's going to happen. Hopefully something fun. I hope they got some really good plans for all of us as we moving into the Cody Rhodes era of the WWE right now. By the way, I read something that apparently really quick, I'll get this out of the way. I meant to mention this in the top. Apparently, the next 19 live events for the WWE are 100% sold out. I actually read somewhere that the next 27 events are totally sold out. So, again, we're in just another realm of pro wrestling right now in the WWE. So, and
they're hitting those international markets too. I mean, Backlash is taking
very
place
smart
in France.
So smart.
Money in the Bank is taking place in Toronto.
Yep. Don't forget the next Saudi show.
We have another Clash of the Castle, another Saudi show. Which that Saudi show they'll make fucking bank.
Yeah. Just showing up, they make $60 million.
Yeah. I wish I could make that just for showing up.
Yeah. In my heart, you do.
All right, well, I guess that's fair. I can pay my bills with that.
Oh, you can't pay your bills. Don't pay.
No, I can't.
Please. You'll be moving. You'll be moving in here soon. All right, everybody. This is the Hot Tag Wrestling Show. Thank you guys so very much. If you want to follow us at the Hot Tag Podcast on Instagram, check us out there. Always. Again, thank you so much. That's George Rogers. I'm Christy Francesco, and we'll catch you guys down the road. Have a great rest of your week and weekend, and we'll catch you here next week. Bye-bye.